So, hi everyone, I'm Isabel Luce. I'm one of the board members of the Charles Macdonald Concrete House Society, and I'm here today with John Neville, our newest board member, who's also an internationally known folk artist. John has graciously decided to donate a painting to our Charles Macdonald fundraising campaign, and this recently finished painting will be on display at the Secord Gallery in Halifax. And all proceeds from the purchase of the painting will go towards our campaign to raise money for the restoration of the concrete house in Centerville. So John's with me here today to talk more about his art practice and why the Charles Macdonald Concrete House is important to him. So let's start off. Thanks for joining me, John. What drew you to the Charles Macdonald story?
Well, as a I grew up in Halls Harbor, so I was being Huntington Point regularly. There was a fish weir at Huntington Point that was tended every day at low tide all summer long, and that was a big part of my daily routine would be to walk down the beach and from Halls Harbor to Huntington Point and see what was in the fish weir. On good days, I mean, this would be 2 or 3 days a week, possibly. And I just love seeing the fish. A lot of them were left in the weir and not taken out. The smaller herrings and little fish that weren't commercially viable, especially flounders. And it was a natural tidal pool. I don't know if you know what a weir is, but it's a fish trap that has 3 parts: a fence, a mouth, and a roundabout. Fish are directed along the fence through the mouth into the roundabout and are caught, have difficulty finding their way out. And as the tide dropped, the fish would be scooped up at low tide by the fishermen who tend to the weir. It's a real simple explanation. But on the way home, I would often walk on the road and up the beach past the Charlie Macdonald cottages. The Teapot cottage was in good condition back in the 50s, and it was a beautiful little cottage. The other ones were just gaily painted. The chimney tops were had little model boats with the sails, all made out of concrete, like a pond boat type attachment on the top of the chimney. And just the colors, the yards were filled with deer and animals. Never knew what you were going to see. So it was marvelous for a child to see this. For me, anyway, I think it's always been an inspiration. And the Centerville house, that was on the way to Kentville, which was the center of the universe in those days, at least for a kid growing up in the 50s in Halls Harbor. And the school bus usually went past as when I got older and was bused. So there it was, the house with there was a big tiger, the deer, the bathing lady, and the house itself.
Did you ever meet Charlie?
I actually don't remember ever meeting Charlie. And I don't know that there's a reason why I did or didn't. Mabel introduced herself to me in 1976. And she was looking for somewhere what to do with her painting she had of Charlie's, and could I help her market them? And I was fresh out of art school, didn't have a clue. Got one of the neighbors, summer cottage owner, Jack and Martha Crosby, went in, met with her, and purchased, I think, 5 or 6 paintings on the spot. And that allowed her, I forget now if it was either the money was used either to fix her car or to repair the roof. There was some leakage on the roof. These are 2 ongoing issues that she had. And it went on we formed a friendship. I went in and photographed as much of the work as I could. I had 2 rolls of 36 in my 35 millimeter camera that tungsten lights, and was all fairly well done for the time and the equipment I had. Photographed what I could of the notebooks and the artwork and the interior of the house, and that was I believe in 1977. One thing led to another. I was involved with some project with Patrick Lorette and Bernie Reardon at the Art Gallery, Nova Scotia, which led me to introduce him to Charlie's work. And they took off and gave him a one-person show. Felt that the work was of significance at that time.
And that was at the Nova Scotia Art Gallery?
At the Art Gallery, Nova Scotia, the show, well, it toured Lunenburg and Acadia and one other location. Mm-hmm. But it was a big deal for Mabel, for Charlie, and she was still alive at the time. So it was, I thought it was a great thing to honor his work. I never knew he painted. I just saw the sculptures and the cottages, but when I saw the paintings, I realized here is a guy who did it because he loved to do it. And it wasn't a commercial activity. It was a very honest painting of the things he loved. And I think he realized, having seen the age of sail disappear in his lifetime, that this was what he was recording. And I mean, he's not a photorealist. He's very much a self-taught, painted what he saw and what he felt. And it's not necessarily an accurate depiction of specific detail, but overall, it's an incredible history of what he saw and what he valued. The little communities, the small fishing boats, the activity associated with them, in the villages around the province. From what I understand from Mabel, they rigged up their car with a tent and went and camped for days. In those times, you could just park the car and camp if you found a spot that wasn't going to interfere with anyone's property or anything, and nobody cared. That was norm for, and he painted. And here we've got a record of his camping trips and the places that he'd like to go. You also have the notebooks from his travels around the world, which I don't know any other artist that documented as well as he did what he saw and what he encountered on his travels. Europe, Hong Kong, India, and working as a ship's carpenter. It's quite a remarkable story. These notebooks are a national treasure, really. I mean, they're incredible. The sketches, singular piece of work.
They really are. And seeing it from his perspective, from a farming family in Centerville, and he's traveling the world, it's really wonderful seeing it through his eyes. It's really interesting hearing too about your childhood and growing up in Halls Harbor and walking along the Bay of Fundy, and a lot of your paintings are really informed by that. You have a few of the weirs that you were talking about, and these stories that happened while you were there, or you've probably been told by your family throughout the years. Why do you like depicting these scenes in your own art?
Well, I guess that's my story. You know, my grandfather had the post office in Halls Harbor, and when I was very small, I would go and uh, be with my grandfather, and there'd be a group of men from the village sitting around the wood stove, chewing tobacco and telling stories. And I'd be this 4 or 5 year old kid in the corner, kind of listening. You know, these are the kind of stories that I pick up on.
And
But
the painting that you made for the Charles McDonald Society, for the proceeds to be sold for the rehabilitation project. I'm just looking at a photo of it right now, and it has your typical bright, beautiful colors that are common in a lot of your paintings. And it's a bird's eye view looking down into a boat, and there's two fishermen in the act of rowing, and the boat's just full of fish. Do you want to tell me a bit more about the thought behind the composition of this and what the scene is showing?
um, um, I paint or draw boats from a builder's eye, having built and worked on a lot of stories. And so it's not really a blueprint, but it's done in the proportions are based on actual proportions of a real boat. And the I fished like with that type of technique with my father and uncles. Um, the and you know we would catch a lot of fish by times and fill the dory up. The mermaid is just a figment of imagination. It's kind of a joke, really, but it's fun. I mean, what would happen if you caught one? What would you do? You know, or if she helped you catch the fish? I don't know. You know, what I'm not really sure. It could be just about anything, but it's supposed to be humorous. It's not anything that you'd be afraid of or would cause people to be upset. I hope. Um, I, I think that it'll brighten up anybody's home or office or wherever it ends up.
I think I'll just go back to Charlie and ask you, why do you think it's important that we save the concrete house?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer. We've got. I think it's one of the oldest, if not the oldest, house in the Eastern Canada, the Maritimes, that's been made of concrete. It's a free-form experiment. It's lasted 100+ years. I think it can be a focal point for arts activities, for um, especially for children, to give them some type of benchmark to say, okay, like this one guy did all this, and Charlie, and wow, and I could do, excuse me, I could do something myself of significance. And his story is it's a timepiece into the fabric of who we are today and where we're going down the road. Uh,
I definitely agree. I think that he needs to be better known, and that hopefully the work that we're doing can make a difference. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. And to anyone who wants to learn more about Charlie, take a look on the website. And if you want to see the painting again, it's going to be at Secord Gallery, so you can go in person.
yeah,
And
and can I just interrupt? I'd like to say thank you to the Secord Gallery for helping to promote this, Charlie's work, and very graciously of um, showing the painting.
so thanks again, and have a great day.